All right. Joining me now is a very special guest. She's a former WWE NXT talent. She was a participant in the Mae Young Classic Tournament back in 2017. She was the first women's pro wrestler to ever be signed at MLW, and she's trained in martial arts, so be careful. She'll kick your ass and anything at all. And she also likes music, too. So let's welcome in Zeda Zhang. Zeda, how are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I am freaking awesome, man. I'm just totally psyched for this. You're actually my first guest, really, to be on my show.
Oh, no way. Yay. Thank you.
Yeah, so I just figured, yeah, I know. It's so cool. And, I figured if you're going to be my first guest, I figured why not you,
Oh, you're too sweet. I'm excited for this. It's awesome.
Yeah. So, I've been checking, there's like a couple of matches out on YouTube. I saw you there, but, you also have a Patreon as well.
Yeah. Sadly, I don't have that much on YouTube. Most of my stuff after WWE, I was traveling in Asia for like almost a whole year.
Oh, wow.
So most of my stuff is in Asia, and I got like at least 8 matches that's not out from OWE when I was over there, and I've been trying to get it, still haven't gotten it, so there's some issues with that.
Yeah, especially right now,
Yeah.
No, especially I know it's if you hear like a little noise in the background, it's because I got the damn air conditioner on. Over here in Cali, it was like the hottest it was like 106.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
Yes, it was 106 because we had a heat wave going on. Like tomorrow's gonna be like 99 degrees, so it's like, oh god, it's hot, but I had to put the air conditioner in my freaking face.
Ooh.
But fudge.
I can hear you just fine.
Oh, okay, that's good. I can hear you perfectly, actually. You sound great. So anyway, before you became a professional wrestler, you were actually a car model at one time, right?
Yeah, I was.
How was that experience for you?
It was fun. It was actually a childhood dream, a teenage dream.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I finally got to fulfill it when I was in my mid to late 20s, when I moved out to California. So I actually always wanted to be a car show model because I've been into like cars and racing mainly because of Too Fast, Too Furious.
Yeah, that was the movie.
When the movie The Fast and the Furious came out, I was like 13, 14. And so I was like, oh, man, this is badass. This is something like I wish I was a car show model. And then,
that's cool.
When I was 19, I got to do a local one, but it wasn't anything like big. And then when I moved out to California in like 2013, I basically, I've already been modeling for years before that in Virginia, Washington, D.C., like the Maryland, DMV area in the East Coast.
Okay.
So I had a whole portfolio of my modeling up, and then Hot Import Nights found me and asked me to be their model. So I was psyched because Hot Import Nights was the thing, especially back in the day. So
wasn't there like a auto? I'm sorry to bother you, but like, isn't there like a auto show like in Vegas that usually is like one of the biggest of the year too? They do that.
Yeah, SEMA.
SEMA, yeah. Too. There you go.
I modeled for them also.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was great. And it was because of being at Hot Import Nights, I ended up modeling for all these other companies. Basically, I think I modeled at every major like car show company. So it was like Hot Import Nights, Extreme Auto Fest, Wake Fest, Spocom, SEMA, a bunch of ones. And it was so much fun. And Formula One, Formula Drift, that was fun.
Wow.
I ended up becoming the main model for Vertex. Vertex USA, they're like a famous Japanese body kit company, and they're really big in Japan and the US, but I modeled for them as one of their booth models and got to go to all these fun drift events, and it was just a lot.
I could bet those are fun. I mean, I always said to myself when I was little, like back in the 90s, like I was like, man, that'd be so cool to be a race car driver. Then I found out I just grew up and I ended up having a big frame, and I'm like, I wouldn't fit in these damn things. but I was also a fan of like fight sports, you know, boxing, wrestling, because I grew up with Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles and stuff. So I just
And
basically,
yeah, it
yeah,
kind of
there
all
you
crosses
go.
over. It all
Yeah,
crosses over. So I feel like a lot of people who are into those things also like, I don't know, cars and racing. I grew up with like, I loved cars for some reason. I don't know why. I was like a tomboy growing up. So I played with Hot Wheels. I had the whole track thing and all that. And it was so much fun.
that's awesome.
But actually, thinking about it, the only car show I kind of model with, even though I wasn't modeling directly for the show, but I was at the event for Jim Beam at NASCAR. And that was a lot of fun.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
NASCAR,
cool.
Harley Davidson, I modeled for them back in the
Nice.
East Coast. And that was a lot of fun. But
Wow,
it was vibe modeling for import show. NASCAR is more like it's more like drinking and whatever, you know. There's a lot
partying
of
it
drinking,
up and all that.
yeah, and it's a different demographic because
Yeah,
it's
because
more.
I remember I'm sorry I'm bugging you again. My apologies, but yeah, because I went to an IndyCar event with my brother one time back in 2005 in Fontana, and we arrived at the parking lot at 7:30 in the morning, and you see people already getting drunk already and all that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and
They were
I had
bad.
yeah, they get crazy over there. And then like I went to use the porter potty. I went to use the bathroom, the facilities, and I hear someone making a weird noise next door. I'm like, what the hell? And I
Yep,
was like, geez,
that's,
yeah. I'm like, are you puking or are your liver's quivering? But you know. But anyway, yeah, that's really awesome that you were a car model and doing it. Because I have a friend that I went to school with that does something similar, but she also like does modeling for supermarkets, like Mexican supermarkets and stuff. So she's really cool. Another question of yours: after car modeling, you started to train in MMA, mixed martial arts. That's what you did, right?
I did it before modeling, so
Oh,
I
you did it
actually.
before. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so a lot of people used to think that I modeled and then turned into MMA, but no, I actually started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu 2 months before modeling.
Oh,
Well,
wow.
actually, maybe almost 2 months before modeling, but it happened around the same time. But everyone thinks that I modeled first just because MMA, you don't really get to see what goes on in there, especially back then in like 2007.
Yeah.
The gyms are very secretive. And when you're training, you're not allowed to bring cameras. You can't be recording. It's a really big like disrespect to be
Yeah.
recording training because you're giving away the moves. And on top of that, it makes you look like a douche to record yourself training all the time.
Right.
And especially, but nowadays, everything seems to be like, oh, if there's no picture, it didn't happen. But back in the days, people were training all the time, and there's very little footage of that. And you don't put that out, especially when you have a fight coming up. You don't want your opponent to know all your secrets.
Right, and
So,
I guess that's pretty much why that's an open field kind of in a way right now, I guess, when it comes to MMA, I guess.
yeah, I mean, it's going to come out eventually, but when people are actually training for a fight, they don't record stuff in the gym, and you're not allowed to. So
Yeah.
all that is like secret stuff. So basically, there is no stuff out there, but I was working as a part-time model while I was going to college. So I was working as a model for work, but I was also training martial arts and at school. So all the stuff that people see of me online is, of course, modeling because it's easy. You take a photo, get it, put it online. I
Yeah.
can't go into training and secretly record a video or whatever. So I actually started jiu-jitsu in 2007 and then ended up going to MMA after. But jiu-jitsu was actually what started before modeling.
Oh, okay. Well, that's really awesome right there. That's really cool. And then you got into professional wrestling. Was there like anything that appealed to you in the sport of professional wrestling?
It was something that I've always liked as a kid. I didn't know what I was watching because even though I was born in the U.S., I didn't learn English till later because my parents were too busy and I was taken care of by my grandma. And my grandma, she doesn't know English. So she's like straight from China and she didn't know any English and she took care of me growing up. So my first language I learned was Mandarin. So when
Oh,
I
okay.
learned Mandarin Chinese, I didn't know what I was watching on TV, but my grandma was the one that got me into pro wrestling. She used to watch like WCW, WWF, even college wrestling. And
Wow.
I thought they were all the same thing, but different leagues and
Oh,
different
that's awesome.
yeah. So I was like, oh, okay, these are all different ones. The funny thing was, I thought the college wrestling was like the low budget one. So I'm like, oh, they don't get all that pyro. You know, they don't get the fancy stuff.
Right.
Only WW and WWF gets the fancy stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, Olympic wrestling, college wrestling, oh yeah, they're kind of broke. So
Yeah.
it's funny. Well,
They're not as
yeah.
popular as WWE or AEW or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even back in the day, so I didn't know what I was watching, and I just know that I enjoyed it. I had fun watching it, but I never believed in myself to think that I could ever do anything like that. So it wasn't something even close in my mind to pursue. I was a shy art girl. That's my whole life was art. That's all I did growing up. So anything art related, art, music, dance, or whatever, like it was something that I kept to myself. The only thing that people knew me as back then was that I was really good at art. And I won
That's
a lot
cool.
of school competitions, state competitions, like won a lot of art competitions as a kid. But
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, it was like really my whole life. And I didn't get into performing arts until much later in my life because of self-esteem issues. I have bad stage fright and social anxiety.
Oh,
So
yeah.
because of it ended up holding me back from that. But it wasn't until college when I started. Well, I mean, I knew I had this issue of social anxiety since I was young, but I didn't start trying to actively fix it until I was 12. And
Yeah.
I was actively trying to fix it on my own for years and years until I got to college and ended up modeling. And that helped me give part of my confidence. And then when I won my first jiu-jitsu tournament was when I actually gained my full confidence. And because I had the confidence, I went full on into performing arts because it was always something I wanted to do. So at this time, like I said, I already gotten into martial arts. I got into it because I was thinking jiu-jitsu is the closest thing to wrestling. I actually tried to go out for the wrestling team in
Yeah.
school. And during the time when I finally got the guts to go out for it, I was in 8th grade and I was in a boarding school. It was like an all guys military school. But the year that I got there, it was the first year it turned co-ed. So they ran everything like a military. It was really strict, and it was a really messed up school. I honestly hated that school. So
Yeah,
that
especially
school,
you were fighting with the guys too, right?
well, no, I wasn't allowed on the team, but
Oh, you
I
weren't?
basically,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So basically, I hated the school because I wanted to join the team, and they told me I wasn't allowed to join because I was a girl.
Oh.
So they discriminated against my sex and basically wouldn't let me join the wrestling team just because I was a girl. So I was pissed about that. And then later when I got to high school, I got too busy trying to get ready for college and trying to get my SATs and whatever scores up. So
Yeah. That's good. That's good, you know.
I finally got to college, I was in a really unsafe city, and I thought to myself, I almost got gang raped. So
Oh, wow.
it really changed my perspective on life, and it scared me a lot to the point where I felt the need to basically go and protect myself. And
Right.
I've always been interested in martial arts because of Ninja Turtles, you know,
Yeah.
Kung Fu movies, Mortal Kombat. Like, it
Right,
was
yeah.
always something I really enjoyed watching and playing with. So it influenced my upbringing. And because of that, I was like, all right, I want to take martial arts, but I don't know what to take. And I ended up picking Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because it was the closest thing to to wrestling. I didn't know the difference between pro wrestling and wrestling. So I was like, it was the closest thing to wrestling. So I ended up doing Jiu-Jitsu, and that's what led to MMA. And like, pro wrestling had been out of my mind for years. Like, I watched it when I was 4 years old, and I stopped watching it pretty much when my grandma ended up with Alzheimer's disease.
Oh, poor thing.
So I was 12, and because that was like our bonding thing. She was the one that got me into it. So we watched it together. And then when she got Alzheimer's disease, I stopped watching it as much at 12 years old. And then as her condition got worse, like I watched it even less. And when she passed away, when I was like 15, 16, that's when I completely stopped watching it. So I missed all those like the really good times of pro wrestling.
Yeah.
And as I got older, when I began to understand stuff more, I had already stopped watching it. So in my mind, it was left off from what I remembered as a kid. So to my mind, I was like, oh, it's the same as like college wrestling, Olympic wrestling, it's just on a
Because it
bigger
looked
stage.
different.
The only thing that I thought it was I thought they exaggerated the pain. I thought like you got hit and then they exaggerated to make it bigger because it's for TV.
Yeah.
So that was the only thing. But everything else, I thought it was the same. I thought it was a different rule because it was a different league. So I ended up, it was out of my mind until my whole life was MMA until I got an offer to go try out for WWE because of my connections in MMA. So
really
I got
good.
asked to, because I used to, I've traveled a lot for MMA, and one of the gyms I went and trained at for a little bit was Greg Jackson's out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And when I was out there, I met this girl who writes for Fight Magazine, and she interviewed this guy who's a well-known fighter in the UFC, Brandon Vera, back in the day. She interviewed him and this other guy, the guy he fought, Paul Chang, when they fought on ONE FC, which was still up and coming during that time. It was like a pretty new promotion, but they had already gotten their footing, and they got a lot. They're like the UFC of Asia.
Oh,
so basically,
okay.
they fought on there. And the thing with New Mexico and MMA community, especially back then, is once you're like legit in, the circle is so tight and small. And especially in Albuquerque, like when you become friends with one of the fighters there, like the whole damn city adds you. The whole city added me on Facebook. So basically everyone added me because we had so many mutual friends. This guy, Paul, added me. So he added me, but he didn't say anything to me for years and years, like 4 years. And then that 4 years, a whole 4 years of not talking to me, I had already been in California. And out of nowhere, he hits me up and he's like, because at this point I had joined Black House MMA, which is the gym that Anderson Silva, Lyoto Machida, and all those people are at. So I was there training, and then next thing you know, Paul Chang hit me up and he goes, hey, I've been watching you training. I think you'd be great for WWE. Let me know if you want to try out. And I was like, what? That's how you get in? Like,
that's weird. That's kind of weird that they kind of like approached you like that, because you're like, for all these years you never knew who he was, and then all of a sudden, like out of nowhere, when you started training at your camp, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I've been watching your tryouts and stuff. You want to join the WWE? That's like surprising in a way, in my opinion.
Well, the thing is,
Somewhat.
we've been friends on Facebook for like 4 years, so he just never made the move to talk to me. But it was like out of nowhere. So it's crazy because you just never know the connection. Like when someone adds you and stuff, I just thought, he just added me because of mutual friends. But he's been, watching my stuff for a while, even though he never talked to me. We never talked.
Yeah.
And then it was a blessing in disguise. He basically got me the tryout. And then I worked really hard during the tryout to get through, because I still didn't know anything about like how pro wrestling was. In my mind, it was still left off from what I knew as a kid. So when I was for this tryout, so even up to the tryout, I did not know what pro wrestling was really. Because like I said, I completely cut it off, and my whole life was MMA. And so finally, when I was training for the tryout, I was actually training in amateur wrestling. I was still training in MMA, but I would cut out the striking, and I basically just trained all wrestling. And it was until I went to my strength and conditioning gym. I was at like several gyms. So I was mainly at Black House training wrestling, and then I was at the strength and conditioning gym training, and then my strength and conditioning coach was like, you got a fight coming up? And I was like, actually, no, it's for a tryout. And he goes, what tryout? And I'm like, for WWE. And he goes, oh, you know there's a pro wrestling gym down the street, right? I was like, what? There's pro wrestling gyms? Like, I didn't think that you get any training for WWE. I thought that they only hired Olympic wrestlers or like at least collegiate D1 wrestlers, like state champions, you know.
Yeah, the top dogs, the top ranked wrestlers.
Yeah, I thought everyone was a Kurt Angle in there, you know. So I was like, all right, there's no way I would ever have a chance to be in WWE. But then when they contacted me, I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get a tryout. So I just trained really hard in amateur wrestling. And then when I went to this pro wrestling gym, I was like, okay, I go there thinking it was going to be the same, you know, pretty much the same thing, but knowing how to work for TV. And next thing you know, it ends up being Santino Brothers, where Brian Kendrick's school is.
You know what? That's the one in Bell Gardens, right? Is that the one over there? Yeah, I remember.
Literally walking distance.
I had a friend of mine that trained over there, actually. Yeah, I was thinking about going over there, but you know, I don't know why. I had 2 jobs, and I was like working like 12 to 16-hour days, and it's like I just never found the time to do it. But you know, I mean, it's just it was something I always interested in the pro wrestling business. So that's really cool, though. You know, so you went to a Santino Brothers Wrestling then.
Yeah, I went there for a couple of months on an accelerated summer program, and then went for the tryout. I'm so thankful. Like, my strength and conditioning coach told me about that place, because if I hadn't have found Santino Brothers, like, I would not know anything about rolls and bumps and all that stuff, because I thought it was wrestling. Like,
selling and all that.
Yeah, like selling, I think, isn't too hard for me, because I've done acting before when I was modeling. So I understand acting and performing, but I just didn't know that that was part of pro wrestling. I thought it was actually wrestling.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, it's the same thing, except they maybe just tweak some stuff for you here and there.
Yeah.
And so that was what's funny. And then I ended up getting through a tryout and getting in. And that started my whole pro wrestling career.
And that's when you entered the 2017 Mae Young Classic Tournament.
Yes.
How was that experience like, especially meeting all the other independent wrestlers that were world class? I mean, the names on the list was unbelievable. You know, if you think about it, that must have been a hell of an experience.
Well, the thing is, like, I never came from pro wrestling, like, so I honestly I didn't know anyone in there. I know that they were there, but I didn't know how great they were. Like, I had no idea how, like, well-known they were, like, in other promotions and elsewhere and stuff. But I just treated like, okay, I got to get this done, you know. I'm going to make sure I do well. And it was very little prep time. Like, they told us about it like a month and a half before it happened, but there was no word of it after. And then all of a sudden, 4 days before the actual tournament, they're like, all right, it's go time. And then we had to go and do all these shoots and interviews and stuff. And we only had the day before to prepare for it. And so luckily, like, WWE knew what they were doing. They purposely put me with Shayna Baszler because we had similar styles. We're both from MMA, and she's a grappler. So it worked out because I was still very green. Like, I got in, I barely got any training. And then we had this tournament come up. So basically went into this tournament, and it was pretty much like a shoot because I didn't really know any pro wrestling moves. And Shayna, being the vet that she is, she knew both. She knew how to make it work with what I – and we just kind of went in and told the story of our grappling background in jiu-jitsu. And so it worked out really well because I got to use what I was familiar with and what I've spent basically my whole sports career doing is grappling. So it was nice that WWE saw that and knew to put us together and let us do our thing rather than try to make us something that we're not.
Right.
With, you know, trying to do pro wrestling moves when that's not my.
That's really cool. I mean, that's really cool. I mean, you ended up being like a learning experience for you in a way, and it actually helped you out in your pro wrestling career. So that's really cool. You know, it
was great.
I dig that. I could imagine. Did you ever meet the champion who won the whole tournament, Kairi Sane?
Oh yeah. We're actually good friends.
Oh,
I
that's
helped her
cool.
with a bunch of stuff. We hung out all the time because her English, she didn't know like that much stuff. So when she came, I helped her with everything. Like I helped her like I did with all the Chinese people that were there. Since I'm bilingual, I went and helped them with that. And so she became friends with us, and especially me and Zaya. And so we would do everything together, and whenever Kyrie needed help with stuff, I would help her with it. So we're good friends and stuff. She's super cool, super nice.
Yeah, I could tell she has like a really, really, really sweet demeanor, and I could tell Xia Li is also really nice too. I could tell they are.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really good. Did you ever meet anybody when you got signed to MLW?
Oh yeah, I've met a bunch of people because before I got signed to them, I had already wrestled for them a few times.
All right. Oh, that's cool.
I've already been there. I was, after my release with WWE, I went straight to MLW and I worked some shows with them, and we were supposed to, have a storyline with me and Su Yung there, but then some stuff happened, and it didn't work out. So then I ended up going on tour for basically the whole year, and then when I got back, MLW contacted me and signed me.
Oh wow, that's really cool. And you're gonna have a battle with Su Yung. I bet you that would have been crazy.
We were a tag team, so it was like great. Yeah.
Oh, that's really awesome.
We were a tag team. Yeah, we were the Kotakushi Death Squad.
That's really cool. That's really funny because I thought to myself, I bought a Su Yung shirt, and then when I started this podcast, I was thinking to myself, how would I have her on my show, like on my podcast? Because I was thinking about having a couple of people, a couple of wrestlers in my show. You're my first one, obviously, but I was thinking about having a couple of guests. But I wonder how you met. So Su Yung, she's pretty cool too, huh?
Yeah, she's super nice. She's like one of the nicest people.
Yeah, that's really awesome. You ever met Selena De La Renta?
I'm good friends with her.
Oh,
like
that's
if
cool.
you see like my stuff, like she is all over my stuff. Like we're good friends. Like she's one of my good friends in pro wrestling. She's always been super cool with me, super helpful. Like she's really smart, very, very smart, and really understands like the business aspect of everything, which is a very important part of pro wrestling.
Oh, that's really awesome. That's really cool. So I first met you at PCW Ultra back over there in Wilmington. And, I always get the meet and greets because I like to meet up with the wrestlers because I like to take pictures with them and I like to, meet up with them. I always buy something off of them because I know how, tough the wrestling business could be. And, I understand, how, only thing I ask is for a picture. That's all I ask. And, I know how I'll buy a shirt, too. And as a matter of fact, I have your Funko Pop.
Hey, that's awesome.
Yeah, I got your Funko Pop with me right here, actually.
Yay.
Yeah, I figured because I said to myself 5 minutes before I was going to go on, I said, wait, I don't have my Funko Pop. Let me bring it out. So I brought it out, put it on, because I put it away.
Awesome.
I put it away somewhere safe so that way it won't get messed up, to add it to a collection. And then, because I don't really collect Funko Pops, but I said, you know what? I'm going to start with one. You're also my first Funko Pop, by the way. So how awesome is that?
Honor, that's cool.
How awesome is that? So anyway.
That's awesome.
So anyway, unfortunately, you sustained an injury at the time that you were supposed to make your debut match against Sumi Sakai, I believe. Yeah, you're supposed to be with Sumi Sakai against her. You sustained an injury, huh?
Yeah, I literally had just tore my whole ACL, my whole knee apart during training. But luckily, I've been healing up, so I'm pretty good now.
That's
The
awesome.
whole
That's
time
awesome.
I've been doing PT training and just strengthening the muscles around it, and it's pretty good.
That's
So
good.
I'm
That's
ready to
good.
go.
So you're ready to go then, pretty much then.
Yeah.
Well, that comes up to my next question. When the pandemic struck, um, what did you think? What would were you kind of nervous about the wrestling business that when the pandemic struck?
Yeah, like I knew it was going to be bad. And not just the business in general, but like everything else, like health, safety, everything was going to be bad. That's why I left and came out to Taiwan.
Yeah,
So
I don't blame you.
I booked my tickets all the way back since January. And I had already known about it because like I hear the news, and sadly, there's not right now, there's a lot of propaganda going on in the US.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of news that's not being shown. And so when I was in the US, my parents were in Asia. They
Oh,
were in Asia, and they were calling me like, hey, is California shut down? I was like, no, it's like normal out here. And they're like, the pandemic's getting really bad. And
yeah.
they're like, how is the US not shut down yet? I'm like, I don't know. And they're like, you should come back. We really suggest you come back because it's gonna get bad. And as I'm hearing this from all my Asian friends and everyone that's living in Asia, and I'm just like, okay, it's legit gonna hit the US really badly because everyone's going around like it's normal still. And
Right.
so then I was like, all right, so I booked my tickets back in January to have a flight in March. My flight was on March 12th. I was lucky because it was literally days, like few days before the shutdown. So by the time I arrived to Taiwan, March 14th, because of the time difference,
Yeah.
the US shut down. So like,
you kind of lucked out then, pretty much then.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a good thing, like, because of getting news elsewhere, and I knew it was going to get bad, and that's why I left. And I'm so glad I did because it would have been bad. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because see, when you went to Taiwan, and then the very next day, like the governor announced everything was going to be shut down, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god, I did like face palm on my face, like saying, oh no, don't tell me this crap's gonna be happening. A lockdown, everyone's gonna be under house arrest and all that crap, and there's people panicking out there. As a matter of fact, back when this first started, I had to go to a supermarket, and I had to like buy a couple of things, just get a couple of food and drink, and then get like a couple of essentials, and the line is literally like from there to Timbuktu. It was like people everywhere, and then the toilet paper was gone. And I'm like, what the heck? But
Yeah.
it's like, what the heck? Come on, people. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I talk big shit about the propaganda that's been going on here, and I understand why you left to Taiwan, because I could see they take everything a lot more calmly over there, and over here it's like everyone goes ape shit. But it's crazy.
Yeah. So, good thing,
Yes.
but I feel bad for, everyone in the US right now
Yeah.
because like they can't even get the basics of proper information. So everyone's all panicking, everyone's like getting wrong information, people are getting sick, and
Yeah.
it's really sad. I actually have several friends who've gotten coronavirus twice. Then other ones who've gotten it, and then other ones who had family members who died from it. So personal people that I've known that's died from it. So it's really scary, especially
Yeah.
since I'm glad I'm out here because I'm actually kind of immune compromised and I have asthma, so it would be bad for me. And
Yeah.
my,
That's
being old, it's just not good. So, the only thing I can do is basically try and send like proper masks over to US, or like I always post the news out here and I
right.
translate, put it on my story so people could get the proper news because they're not getting it in the US for some reason. Like every
Yeah.
single time I'm posting stuff, everyone's like, what? That's not true. Is that really true? I'm like, yeah. What do you mean? Like, you don't know about this? Like, they've been talking about this for months. And they're like, no, we never heard about this.
Yeah,
and that's when I realized, what the hell? Like, why are you guys not getting the type of information I'm getting out here in Taiwan? And that's when I realized, oh, propaganda makes sense.
Yeah,
and
it's stupid.
Study PR in school, we had all these case studies about, propaganda and all that stuff, and that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, just to be brief real quick before I ask you the next question, since we're on that subject, a friend of mine, I used to hang out with her. Her mother passed away from COVID, and then one of my best friends, he goes to the PCW shows with me. He just told me last night that his grandfather is now in the ICU. So I don't know. I just want to give a quick shout out to my friend Ruben, Soulful Clouds. My thoughts are with you, bro. So anyway, but on the subject of that, with the pandemic being so bad, also at the same time, it's producing a lot of internet trolls as well. And I mean, I see a lot of this stuff, and like, not just you, but like everywhere else. And I'm like, this is so stupid, and it's so ignorant. And I'm like, it makes me want to say like George Carlin said, the 7 bad words on television you can't say on television. Like shit, piss, fuck, cocksucker, motherfucker, this, all that. I just like, what the hell? Is it necessary, really? I mean, why do they do that?
People are bored. They have nothing better to do. They hate themselves, obviously, I guess. That's why they gotta go start shit. So
yeah, I mean, I really hate that.
What we live in, and it's the worst right now because of all this heightened stress and everything else that's going on.
Yeah, it's just really, really crazy. Okay, well, you also like to sing. I've seen on your Instagram posts and on your story sometimes, you like to sing and all that stuff. You usually like to have like some sort of like side hustle, like doing music in your career?
That's what I was doing, actually. So I was doing music before, and like the whole wrestling came about. But basically music was something I always loved. It's the first thing that I really, drawing art was the first thing, but the first performance art that I loved was music. So it was something that I loved, and it's actually something I actually really pursued when I was in California. When I first moved out there, and I was doing music after I had quit MMA for a little bit because of that's a whole nother story. That's gonna be a whole nother interview. That's a long story.
Yeah.
Basically, I did MMA for a little bit, and I pursued music. And when I got back to MMA, I was still doing both. So I was doing both MMA and music.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, I think you got a good voice. You ever done karaoke?
Oh yeah, karaoke is like basics. Like I have actually 37 songs produced.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I was legit pursuing music
before,
nice. Before pro wrestling came about.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. That's really awesome. You got to produce music in the studio. That's so sweet. I guess I could ask you one more question before I go. What's next in store for you, I guess? What's next for you for Zeda Zhang?
Well, wrestling, of course. So once things come back up, it's full on with MLW and touring and whatever else that's out and about. Whatever is, unfortunately, whatever is left after the pandemic. So whoever's still running.
Yeah, well, first of all, Zeda, I really thank you for your time, and I really appreciate it. I know it's probably morning over there in Taiwan right now, right? Yeah, it's nighttime over here in LA, so it's like crazy. But I really, really super appreciate it. And everyone, if you're listening in, go give her a follow. Zeda Zhang on Instagram. Follow her up. You're also on Twitter as well, right?
I'm on everything. Twitter,
on everything.
Instagram, Patreon, TikTok, like Twitch, everything. Just go follow my Instagram at Zeda_Zhang, ZEDA_ZHANG. And on the bio link and tabs, it has all my social media.
All right, Zeda. Well, thank you so much for being a part of my show. I really appreciate you having you on, and thank you for your time once again. This has really been pretty fun, actually. It's been a fun conversation. I really enjoy this, and hopefully we can do this again soon.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
All right, take care of yourself over there. All right, bye-bye. Have a great one.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.